Make a plan shoes. That's what I'm going to talk about today, my beautiful super soul sisters. Now, as most of you may already know, I grew up in Zimbabwe, okay? And in Zim, we had the delight of having a dictator as a leader. And that does kind of make it quite tricky to sort of run a normal life. And as a result, you pretty much, in order to survive, you had to make a plan. You had to make a plan because you just never knew what was going to be thrown at you. So let me give you an example. Mugabe, at one stage, I think it was shortly after independence, he decided that he was going to take over Unilever, who used to make all our toothpaste, washing powders, deodorant, that kind of thing. And in his infinite wisdom thought that if he took over the business, then somehow he would be making the money from it. I'm assuming that's what the motive was. His black swan shoes were. And if you haven't watched that, go and have a little look at that. Effectively, what happened is he made the demand on Unilever to hand over all of the records that told all their secret recipes on how to make all their products. And of course, Unilever being, I think it's an British company. I'm actually not too sure. But anyway, they were international. And they were like, well, yeah, nah, not going to happen, right? I mean, like, no, it's our secret recipe. It's like you don't go to KFC and say, right, well, now that I run the country, I want your secret recipe to KFC. Well, Unilever kind of said the same thing. They said, well, up your jacksies, mate, not going to happen, right? Oh, my gosh. So overnight, boom, like that, we had no washing powder, no toothpaste, no deodorant. The shops were completely bare, right? So this is not, I can give you so many examples of this, it's not funny. So as a Zimbo, we had to make a plan. You had to think outside the square. So what's coming up for me is, in the tarot deck, you've got the hangman, where he's upside down and he's looking at things from a different perspective. We were forced to look at things from a different perspective. We had to think outside the square in order to survive. If you did not, you just simply would not have made it, because he was periodically doing crazy stuff. So, you would be out of bread, you would be out of corn, you'd be out of sugar, you'd be out of milk. I mean, there was always something, where you actually, and that was just basic foodstuffs. So, there were these major upheavals that were thrown at you and you just had to make a plan. So, I saw it, my entrepreneurial brain, saw it as a golden opportunity to make cash, right? As you do. And what we used to do is we'd go to South Africa and we would load up on whatever it was that was short. So, if it was toothpaste, your suitcase was full of toothpaste. If it was soap, it came back with a whole bag of soap, That's just how it was. And then they cottoned on to that. So they started taxing you on what they would sell that product in Zimbabwe, which was typically 3 times the price of what it was somewhere else. So that was a whole different story. But, sometimes it was just worth it. You still did it. But we had to, and even just making stuff in Zimbabwe, we had toothpaste in a little jar, or a little, I don't know even if they're glass jars, probably plastic jars, because even though they were able at one point to make the soap, the toothpaste, they didn't have enough currency to buy that soft metal that they were using at that time for the toothpaste. So there we go. So we're in this situation, and now you're dunking your toothbrush shed. I just think about it now, it's so disgusting. We're all dunking our toothbrushes in this darn thing, to brush our teeth every morning. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just so insane. I look back on it now, but you made it. That's just how it was, right? And I remember I just have to share this. This is another funny anecdote that I'll just share as well. Splash was our deodorant. There was literally 2 types, the red one and the black one. And I think the black one was that the ladies one? I can't remember, but literally was male and female. That's the only deodorant you could buy in Zimbabwe. You couldn't buy it. There was no deodorant. You're living in 35 plus degrees well, some not quite that high sometimes, but it doesn't matter. You're in Africa, you're sweating, baby. You're out there and you sweat. And we also had a drought, so we had water rationing, so things could get a little fresh around there. So we had Splash came to the rescue, but they didn't know how to do the aerosols. So it was called Splash for a reason, because it was liquid, and you would literally hold your arm up like that and squirt it, and you would have to stand like that and wait for it to dry. I remember now. You know what's popped up for me? Madonna. I'm kickback from the 80s or what? And she's standing. That scene. I don't know if you've ever seen it. What was that movie? I can't even remember. And she stood at the hair dryer, the dryer on the wall, and she dried her armpits. Well, it was kind of like that. So my point about this is that you don't have to wait for a crisis in order to make a plan. But even if you are in a crisis, you have to make a plan. And I am so grateful that I did grow up in Zimbabwe, because even like, it doesn't matter how small or big the thing is. Make a plan shoes have got me through so many sticky scenarios. It's not even funny. I mean, that whole thing of the whitewater rafting that I told you about in the Zambezi, being sucked into the whirlpool. I mean, I had to make a plan to get out of that. Like, I had to think in the crazy chaos. I'm grateful to Mugabe. I know it sounds odd, and this is, life is working for me, not against me shoes. Life is for me shoes that I was talking about. Like, when you look back, you see why. But I saw the whole pandemic as a life lesson, and it was just like a bigger Mugabe to me, because I had been so comfortable growing up in that I wasn't comfortable, but I'm comfortable making a plan. Let's put it that way. It is what it is. It's learning. You've got to go with the flow. Whether you like it or not, you're sucked into it. You don't have a choice. Mugabe had, stuffed up the toothpaste industry. You don't have a choice. You've got to make a plan. So they did, the little jar with a thing, and the toothpaste thing. And then I actually, got hustling and actually made money from it by filling up my suitcase whenever I went away to university, and I came back with whatever was missing because of whatever, temperament thing and tantrum he threw that day or that month or that year. And so I made a golden opportunity. So that is called making a plan. Like, it's like, oh, okay, well, where everybody else would see chaos and pain and resist it and, have death breath and, plaque building up, we just made a plan. That's just how it was. So when the pandemic came, I remember I was talking about, wax on, wax off shoes, that whole wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off. It wasn't uncomfortable for me to do that because I was already pre-trained. Not only did I have all of this stuff, but before this, I had to make a plan just by living in Zimbabwe. And that's just how it is. So sometimes you have to make a plan whether you like it or not. Okay, so when you've accepted, all right, life is happening to me. Right now I'm caught up, I have to put my flow shoes on. I'm caught up in this current. I know I'm in pain body. I don't like it. I acknowledge it. I put my super owl shoes on. What can I do about it? Get clear. Okay, you got to put your Zen shoes on, to get clear, so you can tap the creative, because that's what happens. Remember, I was telling you about how when you get stressed, your blinders go on, and it's like the hunting shoes. It's the adrenaline, it's the panic, it's the fight, flight, the limbic brain, the oldest part of your brain kicks in, makes you panic, and you react rather than get proactive to find a solution outside of it. So all those people who are managers will love this, because this, when I talk about the managers, if you haven't taken the quiz, go take that quiz. Once it's live, it'll probably be live by the time this video goes up. And take the quiz to find out whether you're firefighter, manager, or whatever. Because if you're firefighter, you can still tap your manager, but it's just that you might find that you have to work a little harder to get there. So, find out which one you are by taking that free quiz, and then that'll give you some insight. And then, making a plan will be easier for the manager, or come easier to the manager than it would, say, a firefighter. But you can see how all of the stuff comes together. It's like, right, I'm in a crisis. These are the pairs of shoes that I need. These are the emotional resilience techniques that I need, that Vicki Jane has suggested, and it's in my toolkit that I've got, that I carry with me everywhere. Pain body's arrived. I'm not coping with how I'm feeling very well. I'm resisting it for whatever reason. Let me just get rid of that emotion so that I can start thinking clearly. And so I go and do whatever it is out of there that I've purchased. And when you suck it all together, you've got a plan, right? So that, this is what it's all about. Make a plan, guys. So let's see how we can be more resilient and less affected by what's happening in our lives, because just life happens, doesn't it? So if you like that, please will you like, share, subscribe, pass it on to someone that you actually know, that you think, actually, this actually is useful. Like, this genuinely is useful. It's a fun way of accessing things and getting clear about what works and what doesn't, and how it can get us through life in a much more happier, breezy way, and get you into your shoes on your path going your way. So thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Bye now.